to another session um, of discovery and investigate, read, investigate, discover. So today, right now, we're going to be talking about fossils, and I'm going to show you a couple of books that I have found to be just wonderful. And also, I would like to encourage you, especially as you get older, when you don't know something, if you want some basic information, go back to kids' books. DK books are incredible. I love them. And look at kids' books, and they can give you basic information, and then you can spread out from there. But don't be ashamed to go back to kids' books. So, and I have a couple here that I want to show you. This is one of mine that I used in school at Fossils Tell of Long Ago by Aliki. And the illustrations are, I know for older kids, they might think, oh, it looks too young, but the information isn't young. It's really, and she has some really good illustrations. And this was we had this story in our reading book, and they had this beautiful picture of a fossil, and I'm assuming that it was real. It wasn't just, she didn't just make this up. And we did one up here. You can just take brown paper, and if you want it to look very realistic, probably construction paper might be a little dark, but I use this it just comes on a roll. It's like brown wrapping paper. And what is so interesting about this fossil is when it died, it had just swallowed a fish, and all of that was preserved. The bones, the fish inside were preserved. So I think that's fascinating. So, and we just looked at a picture and began drawing. And this is, again, if you're art journaling or you need practice drawing. Remember, if you're going to draw, you need to practice every day. And so this is something that's good to get a good book of fossils, or if you have fossils at home, like I have several out here. This is a lovely thing. It was from northern Africa, from a country called Morocco, and it looks like a snail kind of thing. This is a fern. This is a Brachiopod, and this was found in Illinois. This was found in Illinois. I think this was also, and I'll show you this in a minute. And I think this is an animal with two shells, and one shell is a little bit bigger than the other. And so this, I think, is really neat. This is the rock. On the outside, it might be just plain any old rock, but they cracked it open, and voila, you've got your fossil in here, a beautiful fern fossil. So this is a wonderful example of how geologists, people who are studying rocks, they'll break them open, and my goodness, there you have it. You can have a fossil inside of rocks. Okay. All right. So, and then we have a beautiful. These are fantastic fossils. This came from, I think it was a ranger rick. I think that's where this came from. But these are trilobites, and look how huge they are. They're quite beautiful in comparison to the person's hands, an adult's hands. Okay, so I thought, if we're going to draw, again, doing some drawing practice, you can practice with, find pictures of fossils. If you don't have any at home, I'm going to do this guy right here, the Brachiopod. And I think I'll do him this way. And remember, I think we talked about this the first time that we were doing some drawing, when we were drawing the Jack in the Pulpit, that you look for your basic shape, like this. And this basic shape is kind of a fan, kind of a semicircle here. There you go. And then, as I look at it, see it's not perfect. And when I look at this, it wobbles a little bit. The edges are they're not perfectly straight, and they come up like this, and it comes down like so, and come out like that. So you can see the edge is not perfectly straight, and underneath, there's this. Came down a little too low. Like so, and it comes up like that. There you go. So I've got my basic shape of my Brachiopod here. And so then I can go ahead with my pencil, and there are ridges here. Okay? And I'm just going to kind of and they curve a little bit, and you want them to curve because that gives you that feeling of dimension. It won't look so flat. And I'm just going to kind of go like this and get it started. And the more you look at it, you might think, oh, that's just a simple, and it is, there is a simplicity to it. But the more you look at it, the more you see these lovely details and lines. Okay. And I'm going to it's hard for me to talk and draw all at the same time, but that's not a bad thing. It shows that you're concentrating. Okay. Oop. So I'm going to prop him up, or I could have done the other side too. There's a pattern on the other side, and actually the ridge is more pronounced here in the middle. So, and what I might do is just go back, and you could also take colored pencils and fill these in because there's kind of a brown cast to some of these ridges. I was reading in a book about explorers that I have, and how when the explorers would go out, they weren't just to be wandering around. They were supposed to be writing down what they saw, drawing pictures of what they saw, and being able to explain when they got back. And so they, traveling a long time ago was very much harder than it is today. So not only were they maybe walking, I remember reading a book about Lewis and Clark, and they would walk about 15 miles a day. I can't imagine. I can't imagine walking 15 miles a day. And then they had to make camp, and then they had to write in their journals, and they were drawing. Okay. And I can see things that I could do with this. And just sit here and I can see lines, and that's, again, this is something else. We talked about this earlier when we talked about journaling, that you will, once you start drawing, if you draw on a regular basis, you'll start noticing things that you never noticed before. And even in the middle of your drawing, you'll think, oh, I didn't see that, and you'll go back and you can kind of revise it and that sort of thing. Okay, I'm going to quit right now. Well, I've got my basic. If I were on an expedition, and then I'd write my notes out here, and actually my sketch is pretty close to what I'm looking at, so I would have a good idea. Okay, there we go, and there you go. I have a brachiopod. Okay, all right. So that's something that you can do, and we're going to have our wax paper again, and I thought we will go ahead and create a fossil that you can have. Some fossils, and I think they talk about it in the Fossils Tell of Long Ago book, and any kind of book you get. This book is beautiful. It's wonderful. It comes from the library here in Mount Zion, and it's lovely. The pictures are beautiful, and it's just so interesting. When animals died, they would fall to the ground or fall down into the bottom of the sea, and they were covered up, and the fleshy parts were gone, and then they were eaten up or dissolved, and then the bones were left. But then because of the pressure, it turned the bones into stone, and what was left was turned into stone. Or sometimes the animal was gone, but the impression was left, and that also was turned into stone. But and I thought it was interesting, in here it said most animals don't become fossils. Most animals do not become fossils at all. So I thought that was interesting. I never even thought about it. So, all right, so what we're going to do today, again, we're going to take some more self-hardening clay. Oh, here, I'll use this one. And this, you know, with the mosaic that we did, I had, it was much more, the shape was much more regular. But if you want it to look like a rock, this, you know, rocks are so, look at this. This is so irregular. All right. And then I still love this. You open that up and there you have this beautiful fossil that you didn't even know existed when you're looking at it from the outside. So, all right, so you get, again, you don't want it real skinny. You don't want to create, you want enough clay that you're going to, it's going to be, you want a good base. And this one is very irregular. I'm going to wad this up again. Kind of smooth it out here. Kind of get it soft. But again, it doesn't have to be. Mine isn't perfect at all. Again, rocks aren't. They're very irregular. Okay, and I might fold that in because that looked a little thin to me. Okay, and you can take items. It wouldn't have to be something natural. I have shells and shark's teeth here, but you don't have to use those. You could, you know, put something in there like something from your toy box that you're done with. You know, something that could make an impression. That would be cool too. All right, so I've got my dirt. And I have some shells. I'm not going to use this one because it's bigger. If you have more clay and you want to make a big one, then you know you want some bigger. You might want a bigger shell. I use the shells because they have ridges on the back and they make an impression. All right, and so I'm going to do this. I'm just going to go like that and lift it up. Ah, there we go. I've got a beautiful impression right here. These are called cat's paws, which I love, and they look like cat's paws. And I'm going to put one right here, like this, and press it down, and then just be careful when you're there and lift it up. And oh, shark's teeth are good. You may or may not have any. When I taught school, kids brought in some amazing things. So I might have a shark's tooth here. I might put a little one. I might put a little one right here. Okay. Okay, and lift him out. Now, these are, again, you can find these at Hobby Lobby. And these are little shells. And what I'm going to do, there we go. I'm going to use these I'm going to pull out, especially the ones that look natural. There are some that are purple and red. You can put anything you want. You can use any kind you want. I might try this one. But you can take these little ones and again, put them on your clay like we did the tile for the mosaic, like so. And usually the colors of them, by the time they turn into fossils, they just look like rock. There's no special color, depending on the color of the rock there. Now let's see. I'm trying to find something that'll might be a little. Yeah, I'm trying to find a different. Here, I'll do this. And there, you can put several of these on. And this is not real expensive. Yeah, about $5, but you've got a lot of shells, so there can be a lot of projects. And then, like we did with our mosaics, you decide how you want it. And you know what? I might put more on here. There. And start pushing them down, even with the clay. Don't let them sit on top because they'll pop off. And again, like I said, if they do happen to pop off, this will harden and that'll hold them in. If they do, just take some Elmer's glue and stick them back in, and they will be just fine. So there you go, and I hope you enjoy creating your fossil.